market operators. Let's look on top in the light blue, I have the issuers. These are the institutions that are supplying the securities. And when I say securities, I'm just referring to the different products you find in capital markets. So the shares, the bonds, the units in the various funds that are available. So collectively, I refer to them as securities. So the entities that are now making these securities available, the ones that are bringing the shares to the public, we refer to these as the issuers. They are the issuers of securities. And these are the ones you find as listed companies. Some are quoted companies, some have issued corporate bonds. If you look at the Lusaka Securities Exchange, you'll be able to see various institutions that are listed that have issued shares to the public. And then in yellow there, I have what we call the financial market infrastructures. So these are the entities that allow for these activities to happen, the platforms. So there I have the Securities Exchange, which I refer to as the Lusaka Securities Exchange as the active exchange currently. This is where the trades in shares actually happen. And then we also have clearing and settlement agencies. These are the ones that are responsible for ensuring that the securities actually move, say, from a seller to a buyer effectively, and also the funds also move from the person that's buying to the one that's selling. So all of that process, ensuring that that's happening as promised in all these documents, these are the entities that are doing that. Then we also have funds that have been authorized, and those are the ones you see there in green. So we have private equity funds, venture capital funds, collective investment schemes, which can be local or foreign. So these are the ones that will issue units. Because as you invest in these funds, you are investing in units, you're buying units. So there are different kinds of entities you will find in the capital markets that are offering these kinds of products. Then we also have credit rating agencies. These are agencies that are then rating the various institutions on their credit worthiness. So if you're deciding to invest in a company, you might be interested to know what their credit rating is, what is their credit worthiness. Then we have institutions also that we call self-regulatory organizations. These are institutions that have gotten recognition from the commission to be able to manage their own members. So we have institutions that have members under them that are working under them. And for them to be able to effectively carry out their role as an organization with members, they then have to apply to the commission for that recognition. And those are the ones we call self-regulatory organizations because they regulate their members. Then we have the regulatory sandbox participants. So we also have this innovation-centric products in the market where we allow fintech innovation to be able to operate in a manner that is not really exposing the market, but providing some light touch regulation to the manner that this product is being offered. We also have shared transfer agents. These are the entities that manage services relating to shares and shareholding of the shareholders. So just managing your dividend payments, your information around your shareholding. We have entities that also do that in the market. We also have investment advisors, and these are the individuals or institutions that are offering advice solely on securities. Then lastly, we have the dealers. Earlier I had mentioned the intermediaries that will be buying and selling the products on your behalf, the ones that you actually give your money to, your monies or funds to do something in the capital markets. Those are the dealers. So you see there the types of dealers we have fund managers, we have stockbrokers, we have bank dealers, custodians, and also other types of dealers that will be able to manage funds on behalf of clients. I hope it's possible for me to say in a nutshell, these are the entities you'll find in capital markets in Zambia. And how does the SEC then come in? So our role is ensuring that all the activities happening in this universe here are happening in a manner that no investor is disadvantaged. So we then ensure that for any participant that's going to operate in this market, there are what we call gatekeeping functions that the commission performs. So just processes and procedures that allow us to determine who can then come into this market. So what issuer can offer their securities in the market, which broker can come to you and manage your funds on your behalf. So we have different processes and procedures that we're able to get into a bit later. And then we then supervise these entities and regulate just to make sure that everything is running in an efficient manner that doesn't disadvantage anyone and everyone's interest is safeguarded. We also go on trying to develop the market. We have various investor education and awareness activities. We have a number that I'll also be able to get into later. But for now, I will get into the gatekeeping functions. So the first one I'll speak to is the registration of securities. So I have already mentioned what securities are, the various products that you find in the market. So there's a registration process for what security can then be offered. Then there's also authorization. There's certain products that need to undergo an authorization process, and then others also have to go through a recognition process, and also lastly the licensing process. With the registration process, this process is subjected to the issuers. So where an entity wants to issue debt, say bonds, or even those that want to issue securities, they are required to submit a number of documentations to the commission that allow us to more so perform a due diligence process on the existence of these securities. So we ask this investor to disclose all this entity to disclose all information that is necessary for someone to be able to make the decision on whether to invest or not to invest into this product. So they have a number of disclosure requirements that we ask them to submit. We ask them to submit financial statements. We also ask them to issue a prospectus, and in this prospectus, they are then required to issue all the relevant information on this company so that investors are able to make informed decisions. And once a company has registered its securities, they are then allowed to sell this product, to sell the securities to the public. So if it's shares that they have registered with the commission, it's now up to this entity to decide which exchange they want to go and trade these shares on. Once they decide, they then can be listed on that exchange, and then they're able to trade their securities. Just a few days ago, we had a new listing on the Securities and Exchange Commission. It's the Lusaka Securities Exchange, the LUSE. I think we had a new listing two days ago of one of the reinsurance entities. So now that company underwent a registration process. After completion, they went to LUSE and now they are listed on the LUSE. And this is why now you're seeing information out there that you can now trade your security. You can trade their shares, you can buy shares in that company, become a shareholder, and participate in this in the market. But also now that company is now participating in capital markets as an issuer. We also have the authorization process. So for a fund to be able to offer its units to the general public, they need to undergo a process of authorization. So the commission also requires them to submit a number of documents to the commission, including a prospectus, which is supposed to be the marketing document to the general public on what this fund is all about. So all the details of this fund are supposed to be part of this document. We also ask for audited financial statements from the management company that will be managing this fund. We also ask for additional information from the trustee and the custodians because the trustee and the custodians are important parties in the management of these funds. An important requirement in the management of these funds is to make sure that investors' interests in those funds are protected. We also then have another process called the recognition of self-regulatory organizations. I had mentioned earlier a little bit about this. So the self-regulatory organizations are just organizations that are allowed to regulate themselves and their members on whatever that they are doing. So for an entity to be able to be given this status, the self-regulatory organization status, they have to make an application to the commission for it and be able to prove that this status, them being able to regulate themselves and their members, is in the interest of the public. Additionally, we then ask for rules because for this organization to be able to regulate its members, there has to be rules by which these members are operating by. And so for that to happen, the commission also then has to look at these rules and just make sure that all of that is happening fairly. Everything that's happening in this organization and its members is happening in a fair manner. I have at the bottom here some examples of self-regulatory organizations that you find in capital markets. The first one is the Capital Markets Association of Zambia. And then there's also the Lusaka Securities Exchange and the Lusaka Settlement Agency. I'll speak to the LUSEC, the Lusaka Securities Exchange, because this is one of the popular organizations and it will be easier for people to relate. So the Lusaka Securities Exchange, the exchange, the LUSEC, has members that it regulates. So the brokers that trade on the LUSEC are members of the LUSEC. And so for LUSEC to be able to regulate and manage the rules around trading on its exchange, it then has that self-regulatory organization status. So these are some of the examples that we have under self-regulatory organizations. I'll now get into licensing as the last gatekeeping function. And I just have here a number of license types that you will find. We have a dealer's license, an investment advisor's license, share transfer agent's license, a clearing and settlement agency license, securities exchange license, and credit rating agency license. These licenses allow for different entities that apply for them to be able to then offer these services to the general public. So for a dealer, for instance, the dealer's license allows you to then deal in securities. So whether you're buying or selling any of the securities on behalf of public or you're managing funds on behalf of some clients, like in the case of the fund managers, so they'll hold a dealer's license. The broker that will be buying shares on your behalf or selling shares, they'll hold a license like a dealer's license. Investment advisors, so anybody that's going to be giving advice on securities will be required to then apply for this investment advisor's license to allow them to legally be able to offer that advice on securities. It's the same for the share transfer agency license. For you to be able to offer services of a share transfer agent, you have to apply for a license from the commission that will allow you to do that. Same with the clearing and settlement agency. For you to be able to manage an exchange, we need a securities exchange license. For you to be able to rate companies, you then have to apply for credit rating agency license. I'll go a bit deeper into the requirements for a securities exchange license. So some of the items that we look out for is that this company is already registered under the Companies Act. And then additionally, we need to ensure that this company has enough financial resources to be able to manage this business. We look at the rules that are in place for them to be able to manage an exchange and its members. We make sure that they have adequate arrangements for them to be able to manage and monitor its own rules. We also need to ensure that this entity has in place mechanisms for investigating and managing crime, complaints, and also able to promote a high standard of integrity and cooperation of the regulators. So we ask for various information that then feed into these requirements so that we are then able to arrive at a conclusion that this applicant has met this requirement. We then also license the different intermediaries that I had mentioned earlier. And with the exception of investment advisors, all the licenses can only be issued to entities, companies. And then for some, like the dealers, the transfer secretaries, we also license the actual individuals that are performing these services. So the actual individuals that are offering the price, the actual individuals that are buying and selling on behalf of these entities, we require them to hold representative licenses. And we also require that these applicants are fit and proper. Their integrity levels are high. These are individuals that we can rely upon and also have the necessary academic qualifications. They have the necessary experience. With regards to academic qualifications, we do require each applicant to undertake a specific course. So upon completion of that course, we are then able to grant that license and allow you to then perform these activities that require you to have this license. I have here an example of a checklist for individuals. So what we basically just ask for basic application documentation, completion of a form, you pay the prescribed fees. We also ask for more personal information, just general KYC kind of information. And additionally, we just want to know that you have a positive financial position for you to be able to hold all of these licenses. For the companies, we also ask for standard application documentation, application letter, form to be completed, and fees. And we ask for company-specific documentation, mostly the background documentation, a registration, certificate of incorporation, articles of association, financial information, that would be your audited financial statements. We've had institutions that are startups and don't have that history or haven't been in operation for over a year. We still ask for the latest management accounts and an appointment letter for your auditors. And then we ask that all applicants are members of a capital markets association. And then we go into the details of the directors just to know people behind the institution that's applying. Our licensing process is generally an easy one. So after we now have an online application process. Before we used to receive physical documentations, and now we have an online portal where you can just submit your documentation, and then we are able to notify, well, the system is able to notify you on the status of your application. If anything is missing, we're able to communicate. And upon receiving a complete application, you're also notified that now it's complete, and now the processing of your application has begun. Upon completion of the processing of your application, it's then presented at the licensing committee meeting, which then decides on whether to grant the license or not. But whatever the decision is, we still then communicate that to the applicant on time. And where it's not granted, we allow the applicant an opportunity to communicate with the commission why they should still have their license granted. Once you're a licensee, you are then subjected to different kinds of obligations. They depend on what service they're actually offering to the public, so I won't get into that detail. On my slide here, I just have license fees. I won't get into each one of them because we will be able to share this slide and you can just make reference to those figures. But there are license fees that you need to pay annually to the commission, and the licenses that you apply for are virtual, meaning you do not have to apply every so often. Once you apply and the license is granted, it becomes a system that will revoke. We do have various reasons for revoking the license. But I won't get into that in this presentation today. Yes, so once you're a licensee, you face a number of obligations that you have to comply with, and we continue to monitor you regularly, depending on the service that you offer. So these are the types, the different ways that someone can participate in the market. I'll just go back to the universe here, because this is where you really see the different spaces you can play if you want to participate in capital market. But if you don't want to participate in this manner from this end, you could still participate on the market development side and market development activities. So we have various market development initiatives and partnerships that we invite the public to partner with us on. We have ambassador programs where you write to the commission, apply to the commission to be members or part of this program. We train you, and then you can then go out there and offer financial literacy programs or participate in our financial inclusion activities. We are always at these provincial shows, not just in Osaka, in the various provinces. We invite different partners that can join us on these activities. We are in schools, we are, we have this debate, the National Debate Challenge, where we go around the country and just engage with the different schools in spreading awareness and literacy levels in capital markets. We have some quite exciting activities on that front, and it would be nice to have everybody participate. We are also partnering with associations of different schools, and we just see how we can participate, or you can participate with us. Engage us, and we're always open. This is the end of my presentation. I invite no questions. Okay. Thank you so much. Very inviting presentation. We'll now invite questions and contributions from
our audience. We are live on Facebook, so if you've got comments on Facebook, please just put your comment or your question there. We will be able to read it just now in real time. And then for the rest of our audience here on Zoom, if you have a question, please type it in our comment section. Let me just get to there and see if we have any questions that we can get.
Okay.
Okay.
So
So
Chilewe,
Chilewe,
Siakasi,
yeah,
yeah.
good afternoon. The sound is a bit muffled or low. Chilewe, please just type back and tell us if it's now better. If there's anything you missed, please just let us know. I'm sure Jeffrey can go through what any clarification you may have. Okay, and then we have a question from Caesar. Caesar says, thank you for the wonderful insight presentation. Is it possible to get slides? I want to see the dealer's licensing slide in particular. Okay. Okay, so Jeffrey, maybe you would like to just shed more light on how one becomes a dealer. What are the actual licensing requirements?
Okay. Thank you for that. So I did, we will share the slides, and I do have the requirements as on one of the slides. I don't know if you can see that slide. So the first thing we ask for is, of course, an application letter where you're actually telling us what you're applying for. There's also a form that you need to complete and pay the fees. And then on personal information, we'll ask for your CV, character reference letters, certificates of your academic qualifications, your proof of address, your certified copy of ID. And in a case where you're not Zambian, we ask for a work permit. We ask for your membership in a capital markets association. And remember, I had mentioned that we have a minimum academic qualification certificate that we ask for. So we'll ask you to provide proof of having completed that one. And then we also ask for your latest statement of assets and liabilities. So this is for the individual that is representing a dealer, but the actual dealer is an entity that then is allowed to offer this service. So now for the entity, they also have to submit an application letter, complete a form, and pay the prescribed fees. And then we have the PACRA documentation. So the certificate of incorporation, certificate of share capital, certificate of articles of association, proof of your business plan. I must add, on the business plan, we are interested to really understand what you want to use the license for. In a case where we can see that your business model is not really speaking to securities, then what that shows is that you actually don't need the license. So we also want to see, we really want to see okay, so you want to get into capital markets, you want to buy shares. How exactly are you going about this? What are your projections? Your business plan really has to be detailed. We want to see how you're going to be managing risks, what risks, and all of that. Then we also want to see your shareholding. We're interested to know who the shareholders are in this business. Where there's a company, we want you to provide information of the people behind that company that's a shareholder until you get to the natural person. So you have to provide that much detail. And then financial information, we want to see if you have the adequate resources to be able to run this business. Because if you look at fund management, for a long period of time, you have to be operating on your capital, because for you, it will take time before you can break even, because you're just charging maybe 5% of your assets under management. And if you're starting out, how much do you really have of assets under management? How much of that can you then charge 5, 6, 7% of that to be able to manage your operations? So we're going to be looking at that and seeing how sustainable are you. And then we want auditor's confirmation. We want to see that you're a member of an association as a business, and the details of your directors. So we want to know who they are. So we ask for their IDs, their addresses, their CVs, and also 2 character reference letters. We're quite specific on the character reference letters because we don't want your friends, your relatives, or anyone that has interest in you getting a license writing these letters. We want people that actually know you, so for a minimum of 5 years, and can really speak to your professional character. Basically, that's what we ask for in not even just the dealer's license, in most of the licenses with a few variations, but basically that's what we ask for. Thank you.
Okay, great. Great. Thank you so much, Gertrude, for that. So that offers detail of what requirements are needed for a dealer's license. And as you've mentioned, not just a dealer's license, but across the board with a few variations, right?
Mhm.
So what about the sandbox? What are the requirements for one to be part of the sandbox? This question is also coming from Teaser.
Okay, so for the sandbox, we can only admit a number of institutions at a time. So we have cohorts. So we have a period when we can invite the public to make applications, and then we close that off because we can only manage a certain number of them. We then process those applications. We then we also have requirements that are similar to licensing. It's just a little lighter. They don't, the fees are relaxed. We just have a few requirements relaxed, but basically the same that I mentioned. And then those that are successful, just like licensing, those that are successful are communicated to, and we continue with the journey. And those that are not also communicated to with the reasons why not. With sandbox applicants, we want people that have innovation that's ready for deployment and not at concept stage, but really ready for deployment so that we start testing. We're not working on your systems or your processes, but you have those in place and ready for deployment. That's what we really look out for.
Okay. And then in terms of qualifications, I know you did talk about it. Could you just emphasize what qualification does someone need to get into the market as a dealer or an investment advisor?
So we do not really prescribe, say, the qualification like whether you're an engineer, whether you're an economist or a doctor, but we will require that you then do at a bare minimum the 2 SEC approved courses. One of them is the CISI course, which is the Chartered Institute of Securities Investments. And then we also have the stockbrokers and investment advisors course. So those are the two that we have recognized that if you do these, then you have met the real bare minimum to operate in capital markets.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. Because there was actually a follow-up question on basic requirements on how one can participate in the ambassador program. And similar to what Gertrude has mentioned, for the ambassador program, we do the training as the SEC, and the training that we offer is in partnership with the Chartered Institute of Securities and Investment, which is the CISI course. So you do a foundation course of that. We train you after you've registered and applied to be an ambassador. And then we are looking to expand that to a local content, which will be the same stockbroking course as an ambassador as well. So those are the requirements for one being an ambassador. But then for the ambassador program, you have to make an application to us as well. Yeah, and then again, it's also opened up similar to the sandbox in cohorts. So right now we still have the first cohort of ambassadors with us that we admitted we trained in 2025. Yeah. Okay. Then there's another question from Chibale Kunda. Can anyone invest in capital markets?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
But the simple answer is yes. You can invest, anyone can invest in capital markets. There is no discrimination. I think the other day I saw someone say they are a 10 kwacha investor in one of the listed companies and they were attending an AGM. So that just shows you how easy it is. Well, I don't know if it's easy, but it's accessible and available to anybody. There is no discrimination. There's no stated discrimination. The various institutions have given themselves a minimum value they're willing to work with. So some institutions will not want to broker any amount less than 500 kwacha, but that's specific to them. But in the market, there are no restrictions, no discrimination.
Okay, thank you so much for that response, Gertrude. I hope it answers your question, Chivale. But Patrick wanted to find out if we offer the courses that we just mentioned. And I think we did mention that, for example, the CIS course is offered by the Chartered Institute of Securities and Investment. So this is a UK-based institution that is affiliated with us, and then one can have training there, you get the course. So locally, ZCAS is offering that particular course. So you can actually get trained in that course at ZCAS. Then for the stockbroking course, we offer it in partnership with the Zambia Institute of Insurance. ZBICT, yes.
ZBICT.
I've forgotten the full name. Let me just get it right. Then we'll type it in the chat as well. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? So from my inbox here, I don't have any more questions. Maybe we can check our Facebook page. Do we have any comments there? Okay, so we don't have any questions from our Facebook page. So speaking of licensing investment advisors in particular, Gertrude, could we just maybe highlight why it's important for one to be licensed before you can offer investment advice to the public? And maybe where do we draw the line between investment advice and education?
It's a very thin line, but maybe I would speak to the importance of being licensed and also for the public to deal with licensed individuals. Capital markets deal with money. It's people's monies, it's people's investments. And when somebody places the money with any entity, there's a promise that you're taking care of my money or you're growing it or there's some promise. You're looking out for my interests. Now, how do you make sure that that person who's telling you where you should take your money is looking out for your interest, or they're even aware of the risks that are available, that they are exposing your investment to? So that's why we require that anybody that's going to speak about securities, that's going to be advising you where to take your money or what you can invest in, is licensed, because we require these people to, first of all, know what they're talking about, know what they're telling you, know what they can't tell you, what they should avoid talking about. They should also have an understanding of where your money is going, how do they conduct themselves to you. So basically, that's why it's important. We don't want people mis-selling. People are also out there to make money. They're looking out for themselves. They want to make a commission. There's a lot of mis-selling that could happen. I could tell you, if you invest in this company, you're going to make 50% return. And once you invest your money, I can only say sorry. But if I'm licensed, I am responsible for my action. There's somebody who's watching what I'm going to say and the effect of what I'm going to say or what I'm selling. And that's why it's important to have people licensed. They are held accountable for what they are telling individuals. They are held accountable for what they are selling. There are guidelines on how they can maneuver in this space and what they can speak about and how they just conduct themselves generally.
Okay, so we have a follow-up question to that. This is from Kelvin. So does one need to have both an IASBC certificate and CIA certificate to be an investment advisor, or just one of the two?
One is enough, but we won't stop you from doing both if you want to, but one is enough. One is sufficient for the application.
Okay. Okay, great. Facebook, do you have anything there? To our audience, if you have a question, please, you are free to put up your hand. Then we will be able to give you permission to speak. What's the comment from Facebook?
We have a comment.
Okay, so our other question is saying, from a safe perspective, are there any plans to make the fees for individual investment advisors more affordable in order to attract more participants, as there's seemingly a gap in the market?
It's good to hear such feedback, because then this also informs us of what we then need to consider in a case where we can make any changes. But for now, these fees are what is prescribed by the law, and so we can't just make a decision to change them. But if there would be any plans in future, it's something that will have to be considered, and enough engagement will have to be conducted before arriving at the suitable fee, if it will be revised. But thank you for that. It's something that's useful.
Okay, thank you so much, Gertrude, for that response. And yeah, it's good feedback for us, I guess. So it's something to consider. Maybe it is a barrier to entry into the market. So it's something that can definitely be discussed. Any more questions? Okay, so we do not have any more questions. We have come to the end of our town hall. And maybe just closing remarks. Gertrude, what is your closing message from today's presentation? What do you think is the key takeaway that our audience should go away with?
I think there was a question on, I can't remember the exact question, but whether there's like a restriction or anybody can participate in the market. I think the misconception that's been going on for some time is that capital markets are bougie and for the elite.
Yeah.
And for you to participate, you need to have a large amount of money. But that's not true. That's far from the truth. Anybody can participate in the market. And the only people that are responsible for growing our market is ourselves. If we want to see a change, we are the ones that are going to make that change. If we're saying that our markets are illiquid, then let's go make them liquid. Let's go make those offers to buy. Let's go make those offers to sell. Let's talk about it. Let's have these large corporations coming to list. Let's spread awareness. If we're not talking about it, if people in our households don't know what capital markets are, but we are here, we are joining these town halls, we're educating ourselves, we're not helping our neighbors, our siblings, our family, then we're the ones who are doing ourselves a disservice. So my message is that let's all grow our economy, starting with our market. So I'm just inviting everyone to participate. It's not like you're locked in. You can invest, and if it's not working for you, you can still disinvest. You can get your money out. We're getting some IPOs. Test the waters if you want. This is the time. Test the waters. If it doesn't work for you, disinvest, get your money out. If it's working for you, put in more. There's a lot of money that's being circulated in the Ponzi schemes. So there is money that people are willing to invest. So why not bring it officially in a system that's regulated, that's recognized? And that's my message for everyone today.
Okay, thank you so much, Gertrude. Well said. And as Gertrude has mentioned, so we do have a lot of money out there that people are putting in Ponzi schemes. So if we can channel it to the right place, the financial markets offer different products, and capital markets are just part of the bigger system and the bigger picture. So they are a way for you to diversify to bring up monies into the capital market, as well as the money market, as well as the pensions and insurance industry. So all these are avenues for you to simply diversify. Okay, I would just like to thank my presenter for the day, Ms. Gertrude Buyungwe from the Securities and Exchange Commission. And thank you, my audience, for joining us today. We will be able to see you next time. Please take note that the town hall is every last Thursday of the month.